Hello, Charlie Gladstone here. Thank you very much for joining me. Welcome to my lockdown studio with Welsh light lighting us from the right and my phone resting precariously on one of those funny old octopusy tripods and my very own tie-dyed, indigo-dyed backdrop behind me. Saying this implies that I might have a slightly better and more professional studio if we weren't in lockdown, but actually that isn't true at all. I don't have a studio at all. Anyway, this is part 2 of my online tutorial entitled How to Change and Why You Must. If you haven't watched the first part, it might be better to go back and have a look at that. I think that it is a good introduction to why you need to change. But I will say that all business needs to change every day, all the time. There is no such thing as a finite position for business. And that applies to you whether you work for a massive company or whether you work with 2 or 3 people, or indeed if you're a freelancer by yourself or a sole trader. You have to keep changing or you'll be left behind by those who are changing. I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? I think this is particularly relevant as we're currently in lockdown, because I profoundly believe that any business, whatever that business is, as well as any human being who is not prepared to transform themselves during this period is going to really struggle. It may well be that we come out of lockdown and we have a few months where things feel pretty normal, but things have changed. The economy is dramatically going to be altered, and we are going to have to fight a lot harder to keep the bread on our table and on the table of people who work for us. So change, you absolutely have to. And this is a guide to that change. It's based essentially on the brilliant quote at the beginning of my favourite novel, The Leopard by Lampedusa, which is, "To stay the same, everything must change," which of course means simply that if we don't change, we'll fall behind. So if we're in a brilliant position today and we don't do anything for the next decade, we'll be pretty useless in 10 years' time. And I think you can see that in endless brands that have collapsed recently. I mean, brands that were very much a part of, I know that, a lot of people's childhood. Toys R Us refused to go online, doesn't exist anymore. Ha! What a surprise that is. So whether you run a big company or a small company, or you're a part of a massive team or a tiny team or a team of one, this is for you. And it's predicated on the notion that inertia is slow death, which it is. So I'm going to say this next technique is technique 9, because I think that I left off at 8 last time, but if it isn't, let's just call it 9. That's a good point to start at. Now, that is that you must encourage change when it doesn't feel necessary. Change has to be a daily thing in your business. It's a living, organic, ongoing, breathing part of your business. Every day, you must tweak things to move forward. Next, my point is that I think that prevarication is the enemy of progress. By prevarication, I mean that thing of overthinking, just asking people, what do you think? Should I do this? Asking yourself, going to bed and then thinking in the middle of the night, oh, I don't know if that was right. I think you shouldn't overthink things, and I think you must prevent those around you from overthinking. And I talked a bit about removing the fear of failure yesterday, and you can go back and look at that if that might be useful. But I think that not overthinking becomes really easy if you allow changes to be gradual, small steps, constant forward momentum. It's not absolute, it's not forever, and it's not irreversible. I think I've got a particularly sort of relevant example here with our festival, the Good Life Experience, which we launched with about 3 months' notice. And actually, after about 2.5 of those months, we'd only sold 100 tickets or something. But we carried on because we thought, well, look, let's just learn on the job. Let's see what happens. And then actually we did sell 1,200 tickets, and it was all rather wonderful. But we learnt a great deal doing it. And not only that, I think if we left it for 6 months of asking other festivals what they did and asking people in the business how to do things, we just simply wouldn't have come up with something original. Because the notion of being a great entrepreneur or a great creative or a great business person is that you've you've really got to come up with your own ideas. I mean, there's no point in mimicking other people's ideas, not only because it won't really work, but because I'm convinced that customers can see, I mean, literally straight through you. So I say, really avoid overthinking things. Now, my next point, which is 11, is that I've often said to people that work with me that I'm not convinced that there's any such thing as a good idea or a bad idea per se. And this is why you shouldn't prevaricate. But it's much more what you do with that idea. Now, clearly, I mean, there are bad ideas. Don't poke yourself in the eye. Probably don't deal drugs. Don't murder people. But what if you take a sensible idea, just a good business idea, and you drive it ahead, and you're constantly thinking about it and constantly tweaking it, and you make it amazing? It's what you've done with that idea that counts, not the original idea. And I think that people that sit around and endlessly rethink the idea, shape it, work it, I don't agree with that. I mean, there's certainly a mantra in business that's what you should do. You should refine the idea, refine. And there are some bits of work that you will need to do in that regard. But generally, as you progress your business, don't overthink it. It's what you do with the idea that counts. So as you move ahead, it's how you listen to people along the way, your customers, your team, your mentors, your associates. It's how you manage those people. That's what counts more than the original idea. So act. The future is literally right in front of you. You can do it. It's not that complicated. You just have to get on with it, tweak it, move forward, small steps. That, I think, is the key to it. My next point, therefore, is that impatience may well be a virtue, because that restless desire to create things and make things happen is probably one of the kind of key things, I think, that an entrepreneur has. Impatience gets things done. When I was a child, I think I used to drive my poor dad nuts, because if I was trying to do anything like Lego or build something with instructions, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be bothered. And I've no doubt that you'll say, sort of typical man, they think they know better. And maybe that was it. But actually what I've discovered later in life is that what I'm good at, in fact, is things that don't have instructions. It is thinking of something there and taking it all the way over to there. And so I think that impatience is a good thing. It gets things done. It allows you to just get on and try and work through things and learn on the job. Now, next, I just wanted to talk a little bit about delegation, which has become quite a dirty word. Imagine, for example, oh, look at her. Yeah. She's a really good delegator, kind of eyes raised. But actually, delegation is a critical skill, and it's part of this change process. You do not have all the good ideas. Give other people the opportunity to have good ideas. You don't have to accept them, but delegate, give them tasks, step away, explain what you need. Clarity of communication is critical, but step away, delegate. Finally, today, I want to say that change is an energy, that it gives an organization or an individual momentum. There's nothing better at the end of each day than having moved forward. And do remember that you can actually change your mind. I mean, you can move forward and then you can move to the side. Don't allow yourself to be retrogressive, but do always be progressive. But you can change your mind. I think, if you're British, you'll probably know that weird thing on the BBC Radio 4 in the mornings where politicians are endlessly vilified for doing a U-turn. And actually, I think that politician who has been brave enough to say, you know what, I've looked at the facts, I've spoken to other people, I've learnt on the job, and I've changed my mind, is a better person than the person who says, no, that's what we do. We're just going straight ahead. So anyway, that is the end for today. I've run about a minute over my 9 minutes that I hope to keep this to. Thanks very much indeed for watching me. I hope it's been useful. And I will be back very soon with part 3 of my How to Change and Why You Must online tutorial. Thanks. See ya.